Jesus is not God. Jesus is God's Son. He is lower than God. He is not equal to God. God the Father, the Almighty, is Yahweh. Here are 5 scriptures that prove that Jesus is not God the Almighty. Number 1, at Revelation chapter 3 and verse 12, Jesus says 4 times, "My God," which corresponds with John chapter 20, verse 17, where he says, "I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God." Jesus referred to Yahweh as his God, that whom he worships and is higher than him. Number 2, Jesus said at John 14:28, "The Father is greater than I." If Jesus were equal to God, then the Father could not be greater than him. He would be equal. Number 3, Jesus doesn't know everything according to the scriptures. At Mark 13:32, he says about the day and the hour, "No one knows, not even the angels, nor the Son, but only the Father." If he were co-equal with the Father or the Father himself, then he would know everything. There wouldn't be a separation in knowledge. This shows that they are 2 separate, distinct individuals. Number 4, Jesus prayed to the Father, not just in front of people. At Luke chapter 6, verse 12, it says Jesus went to a mountainside alone to pray and spent the entire night praying to God. If God was just himself, then putting on a show like that would have been lunacy. Number 5, the Father gave Jesus authority. Jesus said, "All authority has been given me on heaven and on earth." Matthew 28, verse 18. Given him? Someone gave him the authority? Yes, the Father. Someone higher than him, a separate being. Number 6, Jesus was sent by the Father. At John chapter 6, verse 38, he said, "I have come down from heaven not to do my will, but to do the will of him who sent me." A differentiation is made between his will and the will of him who sent him. 2 different wills, 2 different persons. Number 7, there is only one true God. According to John 17:3, this is everlasting life, that they know you, the only true God, and, separate, Jesus Christ, the one whom you sent forth. 2 separate individuals, 1 true God. Finally, number 8, Jesus is the mediator between God and humans. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verse 5 refers to Jesus as being the mediator between God and men. If you are God, then you can't be the mediator between God and man. That's a conflict of interest. Number 9, Jesus submitted to his Father and did the will of his Father. Luke chapter 22, verse 42, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, but not my will, but yours be done." A differentiation between wills. Not mine, but yours. Obviously, they are distinct, not co-equal, not the same being. The Son being submissive to the Father. Number 10, Jesus learned obedience and grew wisdom. That's right, he learned in his obedience and he grew in his wisdom. Hebrews chapter 5, verse 8 says, although he was son, he learned obedience through the things he suffered. Luke chapter 2, verse 52 says, he grew in wisdom and stature and favor with God and man. If you are God the Almighty, you cannot learn obedience and you cannot grow in your wisdom because you are already all wise and unchanging. Only the Son could experience such growth and improvement. Finally, number 11, the Father assigned Jesus a kingdom. And I confer to you a kingdom, just as the Father conferred one unto me. Luke chapter 22, verse 29. The implication there is if there's a kingdom granted to Jesus, then someone higher than him, with more authority than him, had to give it to him. Here's a bonus, number 12. Jesus was made lower than the angels. At Hebrews chapter 2, verse 9, it says that he was made lower than the angels for a little while. God, the Almighty, Yahweh, is above all and always above all. It wouldn't be possible for him to be made lower than the angels. Number 13, Jesus was tempted. Hebrews chapter 4, verse 15 says he has been tempted in every way, yet he did not sin. But that would contradict James 1:13 that says God cannot be tempted by evil. How do we resolve this contradiction? Simple. God, the Almighty, cannot be tempted by evil. Jesus could, and Jesus was, and we all know that because Jesus is not God, the Almighty. Jesus is God's Son, our Redeemer, our Savior, the one who died. Yeah. Number 14, Jesus died. God cannot die. If God died, everything would cease to exist because he's the sustainer of life, the energy force for everything. God is immortal. Jesus died. God cannot be dead. Not to mention someone had to raise Jesus, which would then, I guess, be point number 15. And I really am going to stop now. But Jesus was resurrected by someone else, because Jesus had to be dead to pay the ransom of sins for mankind. So he was totally dead. A whole person has to be dead, not part of a person. The whole person has to be dead. And he was for 3 days. Then he was resurrected by whom? That's right, God the Almighty, Yahweh, the one in whom we must worship. The very first command he gave to the nation of Israel when introducing himself was, you must not have any other gods. He's very specific about this. He mentions it several times. If you want your worship to be pure, you cannot worship anyone else on his level or above him. That includes his Son. Satan wants people to be fooled into worshiping Jesus over God or equal to God, because he knows that will taint their worship and make it unacceptable to Yahweh. And Satan wants nothing else than to sabotage Christians who have pure hearts, who really want to please God, by tricking them into polytheism. Don't be fooled. The scriptures are very clear. God the Almighty is the only one to receive all of your worship and your devotion, and we do everything through the mediator, through his Son, Jesus. Love you.